We have the technology. Welcome to Shiny Side Out with David Mackey, live from the Sydney studios in Australia. The station has a chat room, and we're in it right now at freedomslips.com. You can listen from there too, not just chat. Check out our website, shinysideout.net, for more info, and also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and that Twitter thing. There are heaps of ways to listen to us, you know. It's not just the way you're currently listening to us. So you determine which way is best for you. If you live in Kentucky, you can call in. Sorry, you can listen on FM WZZR 101.3 or via an app, Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Spreaker, iHeart, Live 365, and our own, that's Mackie and mine, our own app called Shiny Side Out. I know Mackie's just joined us at home. You can listen to us on a Grace tabletop digital radio or driving around in a General Motors vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. There's actually more ways too, but you know, all of those are revolutions in radio. If you like our show and you missed, say, maybe you just caught up with us today, or you know, a lot of new listeners all the time, I'm going to tell you, you can get from the station the best bits from last year for us. So just go to freedomslips.com and check the links. They're pretty cool. If you are in the US of A during our show, you can call in 347-688-2902, or you can add Freedom Screen to Skype. Solaris, once again, had an awesome show, as usual. You know, she's keeping up the pressure on us, Mackie. And her guest, Robert Sullivan IV, was fantastic today. Once again, rings bells, resonates with all of our listeners. Certainly great get for the station. I think that was the third time he's been on a show, too. We should get him. Mackie.
Agreed.
Hello.
100%, sir.
100%. Just before I throw to you, I do have a correction for last week's show. Correction. There are a lot of, actually, it's not surprising, but Mackie, you know what? We've got medical staff that listen to our show, and I was gladly corrected, I have to say. And, you know, kudos. You know who you are.
Oh.
Thank you so much for the correction. I said an incorrect phrase. I said aspirin is like warfarin. Clearly not. It isn't. And thank you for the research. Warfarin is an anticoagulant, and aspirin, well, it does cause hemorrhaging of your stomach if you have too much, but it's actually acetylsalicylic acid. It's, you know, based on the plant, and it's not at all warfarin. So my apologies, they're not the same. Thank you so much for that, and I have to say you're right. And that's what I like about this, the medium, because, you know, you can be corrected. Normally, the people would just jump in straight in the chat room and tell us what for. But, yeah, it's not terrible. You know, do that. It's a two-way street. You know, we're talking to you, you're talking to us. It's all good. So thank you so much, indeed, for that. So, Mackie's having a problem, and he's at his own house today. I don't know what's going on with this. Last week, I have to say, we had the largest single week viewing of a video that we've ever posted, and that was the Ebola Pandemic 2 ? Show 128. It got over, I think, 1,500 views in just a couple of days. There was quite a lot of sharing. It popped all over the place throughout the net. Most of it was referenced via Facebook and YouTube. I did something really cheeky, and I haven't done this in the whole time we've had a show, and that is post our findings in similar topics out there on the internet. I thought that was extraordinary. So what I've done is I possibly could contribute our large increase to answering some people's questions in Twitter. So the theme will continue. If you do have a Twitter account and you're listening to this, and it's not too late, I prefer to be live if you can, What I'd like for you to do is hashtag the single phrase of Ebola pandemic. I'll be looking for that this week, and as I did last week, throughout the week. And so I found all different stories all around the world about Ebola from last week's show, and posted our video in all of those and commented, and we were favorited, Mecky.
We were?
We were favorited. Our tweets were favorited. They were forwarded, retweeted. It was going viral on us. So look.
I like it.
Do you know what I like the most? Is our information is getting out there.
I know. Look, and that's look again.
That's
it's not about
all
Dave. It's not about Dave and I. I mean, yeah, we've got egos the size of Mount Everest, but nonetheless, it's not really.
Hey, if yours is only Mount Everest, Mecky, then mine has to be from the bottom of the ocean to the top of Kilauea. So.
Well done. We're talking about the bottom of the San Mariana Trench, though, right? All right, look. That's all.
Respect, and I'm glad you made it home safe. Now, you are in quarantine for 3 weeks. You realize this, right?
Well, no. I'll come tomorrow.
Yeah, you stay. Sorry, for the cameras. You stay that way. You stay over there, wherever you are, over there, Mickey, and I'll stay right here.
You know, the funny thing is this, right? And I do travel a lot, you know this, right? And guys, as Dave told you, I had some troubles last week to dial into the show. You'd think that a business hotel would offer you some conference facilities. They did offer me a room. But it didn't have a LAN connection going into it. Awesome, right? There was a telephone which I could not make international calls on, and I couldn't make international calls on my mobile because that costs an arm and a leg. Having said that,
I offered to be able to call you, so I can do that via Skype anywhere on the planet. But still, we weren't able to get a phone number to call.
No, so it's all good. No, not really, but nonetheless, there it was. I had a lot of information compiled, which Dave, in fact, shared with you for the most part. One interesting thing, though, is that I leafed through the newspapers. It's the Straits Times in Singapore and other papers as well. The Ebola crisis was played down, and everybody had the same response as Australia. Oh, look, if someone does come here with a disease in Australia or Singapore, who are in countries like that, our health system is good enough to take care of it. There is no cure, there is no vaccination, there is no real treatment protocol that I've found that is actually successful. I mean, sure, you do just the regular stuff, when someone is sick, but whether or not you live really depends on yourself. It's not really what the doctors are doing for you too much, because there's nothing that actually arrests the infection.
That's true.
So that's the problem there. But they seem to be very happy with the health system, which is good. I'm sure it's a great health system, just doesn't do anything for you, at least in this instance. And there was no special precaution. I remember that in Hong Kong, at the height of the SARS outbreak some years ago now, they put scanners into the airport, which picked up if you had higher temperature. In fact, I spoke to someone.
Body temperature. That's right.
Sorry, correct. Yeah. Yeah. So so I spoke to someone who was traveling to Hong Kong at that time, and their child was in fact a little feverish. I think she was teething. Anyway, but they were pulled aside and questioned, and I think for several hours, in fact. Now, though, there was no special precaution in Singapore or in Sydney, coming back or going, and nothing from a health point of view, nothing from a search point of view. I mean, it's just regular security. I mean, you'd think that with things heating up in the Middle East, the unrest in the Ukraine, and certainly, I think the most worrying thing in the Middle East is the ISIS, or now the Islamic State, that seems to be expanding. No, but there was nothing. There was no extra precautions. Well, yeah, right. So there was none of that, which was odd. And sorry, Noreen, I travel a lot for work, especially not to Africa. Thank the Lord, not to Africa, but so it has been a very busy week for both Dave and I. We've been keeping in touch, and what we want to do today is a more of a background. And first, we want to talk about the current status, like the latest status of the Ebola outbreak by country, by the affected country, as well as by countries of interest, such as the United States, United Kingdom, and we're going to give you as of August 13th. I've got the latest infection and death figures, official death figures, right? So that, and again, having said that, Don, I spoke to Dave about this, and I shared a quote with him from a health professional, and what they said is So a total of 2,127 suspected cases with 1,145 deaths have been reported by the WHO, the World Health Organization, as of August 13th, 2014, right? However, many experts believe that the official numbers substantially understate the size of the outbreak because of families' widespread reluctance to report cases. There's a lot of stigma attached to it, as you can imagine, Dave. You know, having this kind of a disease, because people are ignorant.
Stigma. That's hilarious. There's stigma over tuberculosis in families.
Yep.
Let alone a thing that kills you.
Yep. Absolutely. See, the thing is this, and this is I want to quickly say this as well, Dave. And you actually touched on this last week as well. By the way, I have to say it was a great show.
Thanks, man. It was hard without you, I'll tell you that much.
No. I really enjoyed listening to you. It was good information. Thank you. And you can't believe it. You can't imagine how frantically I was running around Singapore. Not running around all of Singapore, right? Wow.
Well, you could have. It's not that big, but
and I had my buddy Phil with me who was trying to help me out, and it just didn't really happen. It doesn't matter. But one thing, and this is what has always bothered me, and this because I could never think of a civil war in the United States. I mean, there was one, I noticed, but right now people they're a little too phlegmatic, maybe a little too easygoing for the most part. I know they're the militias, but a civil war, I didn't really see it. And so these camps, the FEMA camps, the body bags, which are all real enough, right? Underground bunkers and all that. And I thought, well, what does it all mean? But now, I'll be honest with you, because I was always leaning toward the natural disaster that might strike.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Too. Yeah.
But now with this Ebola scare, and I'm not saying Ebola is the one. I'm not saying that, right? What I'm saying to you though is, if you look at it from a disease point of view, and the infection or the infectious vectors it brings with it, the FEMA camps all of a sudden make a lot of sense, and so do the body bags. Because if you've got a highly infectious disease. And we've already seen it. And the reason I'm saying is because Nigeria and Sierra Leone and I think Liberia have declared a state of emergency and effectively shut down certain areas of the country, shut down hospitals, shut down entire regions. In fact, shut down airports, shut down borders with other countries. So that kind of emergency in the United States would bring about the enactment of the FEMA Act. In fact, so FEMA would now be in charge if a state of emergency was declared of that nature.
Exactly.
Okay? So they would start managing, and all of a sudden the camps make sense because you isolate the infected.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they're three different colours.
Yeah.
One is you're currently presenting. The other one is you've been with them.
Yeah.
And the other one is, well, we weren't sure.
Yeah. Exactly, right? So, but guess what? If you're in the not sure category and they quarantine you with all the rest, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're gonna die anyway.
You are gonna die. So, the key thing is to stay out of the camps if you're healthy. But of course, look, if you're sick, a disease like that needs to be contained. So my question is, why bring two Ebola-infected people on United States soil, which has never had an Ebola case? But we'll get to that in a second when we talk about the current state. Okay, so FEMA all of a sudden would be in charge, and the camps make sense because you have to separate the sick.
That's right.
Body bags make sense because people die so quickly, and so many if there were a disease like this.
And
right?
they come in the front door, they go out the back door in the bag. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it also makes sense to in fact quarantine the healthy population underground, right? Because guess what? If people go through scanners, and I'm sure there's there are tests to determine, with 100% certainty whether or not you're sick. So you store away a good part of the population. So all of these things all of a sudden make sense. It just makes a lot of sense in this particular case of emergency, because I can't see Americans standing for people being incarcerated in the camps. I don't see it. I mean, Americans have been, demoralized and bankrupted over the last few decades, but I still cannot see Americans allowing fellow Americans to be taken to camps, like back in Nazi Germany. But if they were sick, again, it's us asking for the solution, Dave. We ask for what's the solution? Oh, they're all sick. Help us. Oh yeah, put them in camps. Boom. Right?
Thank you. I thought that the FEMA camps would be used like World War II, where the native population of your aggressor country would be camped away, like Japanese Americans were pushed into camps during World War II because you don't know whether they're going to be sleepers on you or not.
Yep.
Sleepers, if you don't know, look it up. So That's what I thought. I don't want to. I want to take the show that direction. I'm trying to stay on track. So if we've got camps, and it sort of didn't make sense unless you're in planning to go to war. But are we planning? Is anyone planning to go to war? I thought war was just one of those things that just happened. Yeah. You know, you fell into it. You know, but I'm wrong. So as soon as the Ebola thing came out, Meki, your video looks solid.
No,
it rang bells, Meki, once again. No, it looked solid. It was okay. It rang bells. It really rang bells to me too. So, you know, we're in the same boat. Yeah. I think that we see the writing on the wall with how and what the design and the purpose of these things are really all about. That's why they've got sets of swings in there.
Yes. I mean, can you imagine anyone in this world? I mean, except for the most repressed population, allowing for children to be in camps? I mean, really bad camps. I mean, we actually allow it in Australia, believe it or not.
That's right.
You know?
Well,
we do.
Yeah, we see it.
We see it. So all our immigrants.
You're busting up a bit there, Meki. Yep, definitely busting up. Lose the vid, man.
Yeah.
He'll get the message in a minute. He's time dilated. Lose the vid. All right. That's all right. He'll lose the vid in a minute. Yeah. So that's part of the issue that Meki and I both ran into. Was the it's still going. Well, talk underwater you could, Mick. Come on, you can do it. All right. So how you doing, Mick? You lost the video yet? No. Oh well. So one of those, I might have to drop you and pull you back in.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll drop him and pull him back in just so the video doesn't start up again. All right. So one of those things, you know, it sort of bamboozles the mind. Why would you build FEMA camps? Natural disaster, it all seems to make sense, yeah, but then there's obviously the ulterior motive behind the whole thing, and that's why we've been so serious to bring this up. And as Meki said, just to repeat him again, it matches the right vectors of a disease that falls into a pandemic, and you know, having the World Health Organization so inadequately state that it's bad is just a joke, and it's disappointing, and it's hard to believe that they don't want to take it seriously. And but having said that, we are taking it seriously, and I know that our listeners are taking it seriously. I know that the people who are preppers are taking it seriously. A pandemic is a huge risk. It's a risk, certainly, to our way of life. It's a risk. Hey, let's see. How are we doing?
There we are.
There we go, man. That's much better. Okay.
Wow. Someone hates me. Someone really hates me.
They do, man. Far out. So what I did, Meki, was I just recapped, and I suggested that the World Health Organization is grossly inadequate in labeling this virus, and because it matches the vectors you described.
Yes.
Agreed. It ticks all the boxes for a pandemic.
Well, it does. In fact, let's just we'll go through about the current state in a second, but it does, absolutely. And a lot of countries are seeing it that way, 100%. And now it is not the Zaire strain. I said last time I was on the air it's only 97% identical to the Zaire strain. It seems to be a lot more virulent, and it seems the mortality rate, fatality rate, seems to be higher in this particular strain than in the Zaire strain. So it is similar to the Zaire strain, but it's not it. That means that it might now be a new 6th strain. We talked about 5 strains last time, so this could be strain number 6 that has mutated, which is exactly what we don't need, right, Dave? It's not something that we need.
Absolutely. Now, when you say mutated, the link that I described last week, which is from the Canadian private MD Labs link, I'm going to post it in again because honestly this can't be understated. The information in this link, and I'll zip a copy off to you as well, Meki. There is this talks about the doctor, one of the researchers, Gary Kobinger, PhD at the National Microbiology Laboratory at the Public Health Agency of Canada. He was speaking to the BBC and told them they found it to be airborne.
Yes, well, what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong here, they believe that it survives in suspended droplets of fluid.
That's right.
Because what they had, I don't know, I think you spoke about this as well, what they found is that caged animals that had no physical contact within the same facility, right, so the same air conditioning system and so forth, fell a victim to Ebola just as the infected animals did, like physically contacted animals. So that's where this came from. So while it is not airborne in the true sense of the word, it is airborne enough for us to worry, right?
So it's a close proximity, doesn't last very long. And if it means that atomized coughs and sneezes, for instance, can house Ebola in it from the infected person, and when breathed in, it just buries straight in your skin. Like a single droplet on your skin will actually infect you.
Yep.
You don't have to have an open wound, you don't have to drink it, you don't have to rub it in your eyes or do anything like that. Perfectly intact skin with no cuts, it will go penetrate straight through it.
Yeah. Again, it's a virus, guys. It's very, very small.
In fact, our cell structure invites it in.
Yep.
That's what it's programmed to do. It has receptors, and it perfectly matches what it's supposed to do. So as an engineered virus, whether it's engineered by man or not, as a virus, it's quite virulent. It seems unstoppable unless we all wear plastic gowns and filtered air to breathe.
Yep.
But Meki, this is the thing that I've had a whole nother week to think about this, that I mentioned last week, and that was, it's the carers who are falling down with it now.
Yes.
And the carers this is what they do. They've been treating it for some time. These are professionals in their field. They're not vagrants. They just put some plastic on, to come and do the work. And they're the people who are falling ill to this. And they're the ones taking precautions. And so the only way it could have jumped that precaution barrier if it started to behave differently. And that's why I made the call last week, and I'm buying stock in this one, is that's why they are taking a copy of that virus to the US and to Spain, and you name it. They're flying their peeps out of there. Gee, Meki's dropping off all over the place here. Wow. Poor thing. I really want him on the call today. It's not fair. Not fair. Why won't the IT gods shine on us today? If everyone remembers the blue screen of death where Bill Gates plugged the USB in for the first time and he got a blue screen of death, it's hilarious. That's the IT gods not shining. You didn't pay homage to them. I pay homage to the IT gods right now by, I don't know. I'll just, there you go. You can't see. I'm not letting the audience see how I'm paying homage to the IT gods right now because it's a visual thing you have to do. And I'm just going to come back. Thank you, done that. Awesome. It should be great from now on.
Okay, here we are.
Awesome.
Back again.
So yeah, it is extraordinary, isn't it, Mickey?
Today it is. But yes, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the flow there, but we seem to have some difficulties with Skype, which we haven't had for a long time. Not this bad, anyway. And I'm not using the video, so it's just a voice feed that you're getting from me, and even that is not getting through. But it's very important that we do this show, and just quickly, Dave, let's share this latest status with our listeners.
Yep.
And I mean this latest status as of August 13th. So this is the latest information that we were
4
able
days
to
ago
gather.
from our point of view.
Correct. This is the latest we were able to gather from an interest point of view. So on August 7th, Benin, which is an African country there as well, reported 2 possible Ebola cases at 2 different hospitals within the country. So not one patient, but 2 in separate locations. Both were Nigerians who had traveled to Benin on business. Samples were sent to Senegal for confirmation, and the initial tests were negative for Ebola. But that may change, right? Because apparently you're not infectious until you actually get sick. So the tests might change. There's also a Ghanaian case. There were cases reported in Ghana, multiple cases, early August, and all blood tests returned negative at this point, but Ghana has built 3 isolation centers. You wouldn't build them unless you had some positive cases there, so maybe the media is not telling us everything. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia has stopped issuing visas for the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca on April 1 for all Muslims from Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Okay, so if you're Muslim from those countries, Mecca ain't for you this year.
Wow.
Despite this, though, on August 3rd, a man suspected of being infected with Ebola returned home to Saudi Arabia from Sierra Leone and died within 3 days of arrival. On August 10, it was confirmed that he tested negative for Ebola. Again, I would say that as well if I didn't want to panic anyone, right? So
exactly. And that was the businessman, Mickey.
That is correct, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I really don't know. On August 6th, the Saudi Minister of Health advised citizens and residents of Saudi Arabia to avoid traveling to Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea until further notice. Now, other countries have followed suit. In fact, most countries have now issued travel advisories to that effect. Do not travel, in fact, to anywhere in West Africa at this point. And this will probably extend to the African continent overall. There was one thing, though, Dave, there was a case in Spain, right? Or...
Yeah, there is, but it was a Spanish priest in Liberia, and he was flown back. And there's a whole bunch of conspiracy videos coming out about the Air Force doing it, and the pilots didn't have any protection on and opened up the doors, and then everyone came out in their yellow protective suits, carrying it, and people in all those protective suits saluted each other, had a whole bunch of body language that didn't seem correct to what they were actually trying to achieve. It was very strange. I watched a whole bunch of them. I think it's inconclusive. Needless to say, why are they doing this? Why are they flying people out of an infected country?
Yes,
the borders are closed. Leave them closed. Let it deal with itself.
Yes.
And as we said 3 weeks ago, Mickey, was why fly those 2 Americans into a populated high-density area of the U.S.?
Great segue. In fact, Dr. Ken Brantley, who was the first one who was flown back, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was working in Monrovia in a treatment center there. He's a obviously a doctor, and he works as a medical director for the aid group Samaritan's Purse. And Nancy Wrightball, who was one of the missionary co-workers and nurse, became infected at the same time. Now, both have been flown to Atlanta, to the Emory University Hospital there. Yeah, that's in Georgia, guys. That's where it is. And it's actually the headquarters of the Centers for Disease Control, right? That's why that hospital was chosen. Mm-hmm. But on August 6, 2014, the Centers for Disease Control moved its Ebola response to level 1, the highest on a scale from 1 to 6, to increase the agency's ability to respond to the outbreak. Okay, it's like DEFCON 4, right? Or DEFCON 5 or whatever it is. That's how you have to think of it. This is really serious stuff. And on July 31st, in fact, the U.S. health officials from the CDC also issued a travel advisory for those countries, Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. I'm sure that Nigeria and other countries are on that list now as well. But it's worrying. And by the way, the Brother Pajares, the Spanish priest, did die of Ebola on August 12th, apparently.
Wow. Mickey, I mentioned this last week, and that was the lady who flew into Gatwick.
Yes.
And she was only during the last leg of the flight, she was sweating buckets and vomiting, and was then treated by both the aircraft staff, the airport staff, the plane and the gateway was shut down.
Yep.
To the plane after everyone embarked and disembarked.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was later sent to hospital in Gatwick, which is South London, and they also announced, it didn't have anything to do with Ebola. It's fine. She's dead, but it wasn't Ebola.
Yes.
I don't know what else can do that kind of thing to you, Mackie. How is this? If it's not Ebola, there is a secondary thing going on.
Yep.
Which you present all the same Ebola-like symptoms, and yet, while still dying, it's not Ebola. They're not telling us what it is, though.
No, it's not Ebola. It can't be Ebola.
No, it's not. Now, on the original case where the person was flown, that first guy on his way back to the US who died, and the airline staff, the airline he was travelling at the time, there were 30,000 people needed to be contacted.
Yep.
We still haven't seen the 3 week out of that.
Yep.
We haven't gone 3 weeks of that. We haven't gone 3 weeks of any of these others.
No, that's
having
right.
been contacted and flown.
Exactly.
So, it's one of those watch this spaces.
Absolutely. And since you talk about timelines, it's very important. This is actually, and this is going to be part of the show notes as well. We've got a statistical overview here, and I want to share this with you guys, right? Because this is important. So on March 25th, there were 86 cases in Guinea. That was the total cases, March 25th, okay? Bear with me here. 86 cases. On the 31st of March, there were, and that's only in Guinea. On the 31st of March, there were 112 cases, 2 of which in Liberia. Okay, so the disease jumped countries on the 30th, 6 days later. Okay? On the 23rd of May, on the 27th of May, there were 309 cases, okay? And now it had jumped to Sierra Leone with 16 cases. Okay? And then on the 27th of July, there were 1,323 cases, and it had now jumped to Nigeria with 1 case.
Yeah.
And as of the 13th, there are 2,127 cases, and 500 odd in Guinea, 780 in Liberia, 800 odd in Sierra Leone, and 12 in Nigeria. Plus now, obviously, you've got cases in the States, in Spain, in the UK, as far as we know, right? And,
yes.
and certainly the one in Saudi Arabia there. So you can see that even though that Guinea was the initial outbreak zone, the cases in other countries are in fact double what they are in Guinea, and that's because I guess it wasn't taken seriously for a very long time, and the population centers, I guess, are larger, Monrovia and so forth. Rather large cities. So you've got 2,127 cases as of August 13th, and you've got 1,145 dead fatalities. Okay, 1,000. That's a little bit more than 50%. Yeah, right. At this point. So these are the real statistics. Now this has only started in March. Okay, but you can see it's and if you look at the graph, in fact, it's a geometric progression.
It's graphing considerably, isn't it?
It is, and it's starting at obviously at a 0 point, right? But it is, and there's some graphs here, which we can share with you as well. I'm going to post it into the chat, in fact, right now. But it's going to be part of the show notes as well, as we said. It is a worry because the disease spread vector is a geometric progression, right? It will increase over time, but it won't increase over time in a linear fashion. It will be geometric. So it means that the curve will become potentially greater. So time flies, but the number of cases will multiply, and so it won't just double, but it might exponentially grow there. We hope that won't happen.
Well, it's certainly graphing that way now.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And in fact, they've already drawn future graphs into September, which goes well over 2,000 cases. Sorry, I mean well over, into 3,000 and so forth, right? So. And they also have cases per day and deaths per day, right? So right now, in August, we are at about 80 deaths per day. 80 deaths per day of Ebola. That's pretty worrying if you think about it.
But we weren't. We were only looking at 20 deaths per day back in July.
Correct. That's correct.
And if you go back another month, it wasn't much less than 20. You go back to May, and it was, looks like about 8.
Yeah.
So as you can see, that curves up. It matches that very strange graph that the scientists had put together, predicting the spread of a pandemic as Ebola. pandemic with all the symptoms, how it's communicated to each other, and so yeah, I think that's. Like Meki and I'm not going to call. I'd like to disagree with you, Meki. I want to do this 50-50. If you're saying I'm not sure whether it is, I'd like to say I think this might be.
Right. If this is not it, it'll be something like this, guys, right? And for a test case, though, it seems to be extremely effective. This is much more effective than SARS or any of the H viruses, the bird flus and such. So again, I'm still not sold, but fair enough. If you're right, you may be right on this, by the way. Again, Ebola, it might mutate, and if it is already sort of airborne and becomes really airborne, then we really are in a world of pain, and we will see world travel shut down. It will shut down. There'll be no travel. There'll be no global travel.
Just to, it only takes a couple of sneezes. I know that on public transport, when you're sharing a train with 100 other people,
yep.
I used to do that every day, as Mickey knows. I'd travel 4 hours a day, and when someone on the train coughed, you just got up and left the carriage.
Yes.
Because if you stayed there too long, that carriage was pretty much empty of the regulars in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Thinking about that as just being the flu, this presents as flu up until where your body's being damaged by it.
Yep.
Okay, because it starts to kill your blood cells.
Yep.
And then your liver and kidneys start to go, and depending on how much damage they've got, is whether you'll live or die from it.
Yes.
And that's crucial, because you think you just got the flu until, it's all too late for you. Until it's too late. So
yes, sir.
I think that's really tough. This is one of those things that, because it presents, you don't immediately get blistering and discoloration under your skin, and you go to the doctor, he goes, oh yeah, that could be Ebola, we'll put you in isolation, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. Right? That's not the way it travels. No. It gets to the point where now it's at the incurable part, because you didn't go to the doctor, you think it's only the flu, and that's why it's now troublesome for your expectation of longevity.
Absolutely. Think about human nature as well, Dave, right? I mean, human nature is, especially for men in our society, not everywhere, but mostly, we're tough, right? Yeah. We blokes, a bloke meaning a tough guy, right, in Australia, sort of, not really. But essentially we're taught to ignore our aches and pains and, man it up and walk it off and whatever the euphemism might be. Yeah. And that's, of course, the wrong attitude. It's the wrong attitude for a whole bunch of ailments, but in this particular circumstance, it's fatal. It's catastrophic, in fact. So if you do feel sick, and this goes across the globe, guys, you're not. The women are much better this way, and kids as well. Kid gets sick, you immediately run off to the hospital. Fantastic, Men don't. So I'll be fine. I'll just stay at home and look after drink my chicken soup. And chicken soup is not going to do much for you for this one. Ebola will kill you if you don't get some help. I'm not saying that help will save you, but it's certainly better than just sitting in your bed. Now, having said that, if you are not sick and you notice that people are dropping like flies around you, stay inside at all costs. Make sure you get enough water and some canned food as well, medicines that you need. This is where prepping comes in, guys. Right? Well, the thing is this: you only have to prep for 2 or 3 months, because by that time the Ebola will have run its course through your neighborhood. Okay,
that's right.
And it's safe to venture out again. Once everybody is dead. This is horrible, but 2 or 3 months you have to be able to live inside, at least. That's a fact. If it should hit, if a disease like that should come your way. And again, none of it's Ebola. I know there are going to be a lot of haters and trolls out there. Oh, Ebola, scaremonger. No, I'm not a scaremonger. Dave's not a scaremonger. But this is a reality. These people are dying now. 80 people a day. I know this is nothing compared to smoking-related deaths or alcohol-related deaths, but this disease can come your way, even if you don't smoke and drink. Okay.
Mickey, I want to put it another way. All right. So remember that the only way to avoid something is to plan for it. If you want to live by the seat of your pants, go ahead. No one's going to stop you doing that. But if you have a plan that's going to get you through and navigate around it, so stop your panic, so that you understand. If you educate yourself about what it is that you have to deal with, make your plans to deal with it, then you can park it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. it's not a problem. And if nothing happens, guess what? At least you got practice planning.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else. I know just how quickly that things can go south on society when something large hits. So if we were looking at, say, the Spanish flu, for instance, Mecky.
Yep.
Right? If we're looking at something similar to that, just coming through and wiping out most of everybody, how many of those most of everybody are going to be making the power that you use every day? How many of those are going to be aircraft controllers? How many of those are going to be people who do maintenance on traffic lights, who drive the trains or your buses?
Good point.
Those people won't be able to go to work. Our society drops pretty quickly when we don't have a fully functioning machine.
Yes, sir. It's the knock-on effect, and this is exactly, you're 100% correct, sir. It's the knock-on effect that this brings. Because right now in West Africa, Nigeria, Liberia, and so forth, they have shut down hospitals. And someone made a very good point on the radio this week when I was listening to it. What happens if I need a cesarean? What happens if I have a complicated fracture in my leg? What happens if I've got something else that's wrong with me? The hospital is shut. The health officials are dead. Right? So this is the knock-on effect. I mean, okay, Ebola might not get you, but because the system has broken down essentially, right? It's certainly the healthcare system. What are you going to do? Something else is going to get you, right? So it is, and then the infrastructure will collapse. You know, Dave's right. The trains will stop running. The food won't be transported. Maybe the guy in the electricity factory is gone, right? So electricity.
It doesn't matter. There's only about 25 people that actually operate the entire facility that creates electricity.
Right.
It doesn't take very many of those, and if any one of those is infected, you can basically just put it on autopilot and walk away.
Yep.
And that won't last for long.
No, correct. So there's other things to be considered. I mean, you know, once of course, you know, the disease runs its course, and you know, the survivors will huddle together, but what if the wrong people have died, right? I mean, the people that make our civilization tick. What if all the garbage men have died? And make no mistake, without garbage men, we would be in a world of pain. So it is really important that you make some plans. And this is now a real thing. You know, people in Western Africa are leaving their relatives out in the street, you know, like dead. They put the bodies in the street. Don't want to be associated with it, right? So you've got corpses rotting there in the sun. Not hygienic either. But it is essentially a survival now, right? This is what people do to survive. They disassociate themselves from the disease. Now, having said that,
you're dead.
Exactly. Ding, ding, ding.
Exactly.
You know, that was a real thing, and it might become that way again.
Do you know what I was going to do today? Today I was going to start with a nursery rhyme.
Right,
Remember how we did that, Mecky, right?
Yep.
We did the tales of children's nursery rhymes are based in fact.
Yes.
There's something in that nursery rhyme that is there for you to remember. And that's ring-a-ring-a-rosy, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down.
Yep.
And that was the plague.
Yes, guys, that was the plague. It was a remembrance of what happened during the plague, you know, and everybody fell down dead, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And the posy was to overcome the stench.
Yes.
You know, so you wear the flowers, or have the flowers around, so you don't have to listen. You don't have to smell the decomposing. Actually, you can listen to decomposing bodies as well, as horrendous as that is.
They do make a
now
sound.
Yeah. Having said that, though, right? So let's get to the meat of today's show.
Yes, please.
Almost halfway through it, but it's important information we're sharing with you. And sorry about the technical difficulties here. Dave and I have spoken much about the depopulation agenda that seems to be pursued by the elite, by the unknown Council of Nine or whoever they are. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter, but there certainly seems to be something to it, and certainly population control and depopulation as a part of it has been on the U.S. Foreign policy agenda for at least 50 or 60 years now, right? So that's a fact. You can look it up yourself. Population control has been an active item with the United States for a long time, certainly since Kissinger wrote his paper, and maybe even before then. Now, and you say, oh, that's conspiracy crazy. Kill the vast majority of us. That's just conspiracy craziness. You know, you're just nutters.
Crazy talk.
Yeah, crazy talk. That's all BS, right? You know, someone would have blown the whistle. Someone would know. Even with all the compartmentalization that we talk about, right? The pyramidal power structures, you know, blah, 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 all that stuff. Even with all of that, someone would have said something. Well, where's the hard evidence that something is covered up? You know, where is it? I mean, you can't really, right?
Okay, you're not turning into an armchair critic, are you?
No. Well,
no,
so
good.
I'm opening up the trap here. Well, this is it, guys, right? Between 2000, the year 2000, and now, well over 100 microbiologists have been killed under suspicious circumstances. Now, within any population, within any group of people, any job category, people will die, of course. And I'm not saying that all of them, neither is Dave, that all of them were killed or suicided or knew something, but we've compiled here from various sources on the net and elsewhere a list of these guys with some detailed background as to why we think it is suspicious, right? Now, you know, doesn't this even raise a little interest? Yeah? Should we just accept that these microbiologists just, you know, died in unrelated and accidental or coincidental causes? Or, you know, there's no correlation here. There's no common mystery to be solved. Now, the question is, who is wearing the crazy tinfoil hat now? You or us?
I am.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the truth is that some of these, and when I looked into it, and Dave is probably with me in this, I was actually blown away. I was flabbergasted. I mean, there's some here that just strike me as so odd. Some of these, and especially what their professional expertise is, and then how they died in that period of time. And this kind of planning would have been, you know, undertaken decades ago, right? Mm-hmm. And the year 2000 seems to have been a catalyst in someone's mind. You know, certainly 2000, 2001, the world changed with the World Trade Center attack and so forth. And it seemed maybe a good time to kick off the Ebola scare into high gear as well. Don't forget that there was a lull of infections for almost 20, 30 years.
That's
it
right.
started in 1976. Remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you didn't hear from it for a long time. Okay.
It never wrote back.
That's right. And all of a sudden, it rears its ugly head again. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so you need to understand that there is always a purpose. There's always a how can I put this best? In fact, there was a 2000 epidemic in Uganda that killed more than half of the 425 people infected, which really kicked it off for us. So there was something in 1976, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and it was 20 years before the next outbreak in 1995, and then again.
That's right.
Yeah, and then again in 2000, right? So, and then the death of the microbiologists that started around the year 2000 and have continued until the present day. In fact, the most recent one being the downing
MH17.
Correct, sir.
Hey, Mackie, just sort of just pause you for one sec, right? So, we've been following these dead scientists, dead ufologists, people who are in a particular field that may not be appreciated by, I don't know, if the military is covering up ufology, then the military. If alternate 4 is to be played out, well, that could be military as well. If it's the top 9, then the top 9 have their peeps that are going to be looking after this. But we know that the FBI has had since I think the 70s a heart attack gun. They could shoot you with this thing and you die, and it's not traceable. I'm completely aware that there is something that allows you to severely and have multiple strains of cancer all at once, all of a sudden, for what seems to be absolutely no reason whatsoever, living a healthy life. And those people suffering from those are the ufologists, or people, you know, trying to bring some information forward to the large population. So let's think about that, because we know about that one, but you may not have known about the scientists. So, Meki, who do we have first?
Okay, look, this is going to be a bit callous, but this is going to be a list, guys, essentially, right?
It's not as morbid as you think. This is a clinical list of people and the reasons for their death.
Yeah. And I actually looked up each single one of these, and in some cases I found a death notice. In other cases I could find no information on the internet whatsoever on these guys. Huh. Zero. I mean, the name didn't ring any bells, the year, nothing. Okay, some of them yes, others not at all. So either maybe they have cleansed the internet of these guys. It's unusual to type in a name and get nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, guys? You should get something, even if it's someone else. It doesn't matter. But I Googled a couple of these guys, and nothing. Zero echo, which in itself is a little odd. Okay, so it started ostensibly. Some people have different opinions as to who the first real victim here was. Some say it was Don C. Wiley, but chronologically it was Walter Shervington, MD, April 15th, 2000. He was his expertise was in AIDS and mental health research in African American communities. And he died of cancer at the Tulane Medical Hospital, right? Now, he may or may not be involved in the wider microbiologist's death conspiracy, but it is certainly interesting that he seems to be the first dead microbiologist in the year 2000. He's followed closely by Mike Thomas, and he was 35, and he was a microbiologist at the Crestwood Medical Center in Huntsville. And he died, and it's not disclosed how he died, a few days after examining a sample taken from a 12-year-old girl who was diagnosed with meningitis and survived a horrible disease. Okay, now meningitis will feature again quite significantly throughout this list, so maybe that's something we should watch as well. Dave, who was the next one there?
December 25th, 2000, this is Linda Rees. Or Reese, depending on where you're from, 52. Her expertise lay in the microbiologist field, working with victims of meningitis. Once again, there you go. The circumstance of death: died 3 days after she studied his sample from Tricia Zilo, 19, a Fairfield from New Jersey resident who was a sophomore at Michigan State Uni, and she died in December 18th, a few days after returning home from holidays.
Yep. Okay, and next one is May 7th, 2001. So we're jumping a little here. It's Janusz Jelichevich, and obviously a Polish name. And he was an expert in staphylococci and staphylococcal infections. Now, again, golden staph and all that, it's horrible.
Yep.
And his main, and this is important, his main scientific interests and achievements were in the mechanism of action and biological properties of staphylococcal toxins, and included the immunomodulatory properties and experimental treatment of tumors by propionobacterium. Okay, so advanced treatment using, in fact, retroviruses to treat tumors. Okay, so very, very important as well. I'll do the next one because it's a tongue twister, Dave.
It's a good one.
This is November 2001. Yaakov Matzner, 54. Now, he was the dean of the Hebrew University Hadassah Medical School in Jerusalem and chairman of the Israel Society of Hematology and Blood Transfusion, and also the son of Holocaust survivors. He was one of the world's experts on blood diseases, including familiar Mediterranean fever, and Matzner conducted research that led to a genetic test for FMF. He was working on cloning the gene connected to FMF, investigating the normal physiological function of amyloid A, a protein often found in high levels in people with blood cancer. The circumstances of death, and this will feature prominently as well. Professors Yaakov Matzner and Amiram Eldor were on their way back to Israel via Switzerland when their plane came down in dense forest 3 kilometers short of the landing field.
Oh, a plane accident.
Yes, again, we will see a lot of those.
American presidents or possible presidents of car accidents and
yes, that's right.
November 6, 2001, Jeffrey Paris, Paris Wall, 41. He was a biomedical expert who held a medical degree and also specialized in patent and intellectual property. That's interesting. He died. His body was found sprawled next to a 3-story parking structure near his office. He had studied at the University of Los Angeles.
Yep.
I'm thinking sprawled would be fell to his death.
I would say so. Again, suicide pushed, who knows, right? Again, this is all very strange, and it's especially interesting because if there was something patent worthy, he might know about it as well.
Exactly.
Now, November 12, 2001, this is a very strange one. Dr. Benito K., 52, he was killed in a carjacking, and later that was deemed he might have suffered a stroke. So essentially he was beaten really badly, okay? He was beaten to death. They thought initially, but then they thought what actually killed him was a stroke. And he was an expert in infectious diseases and cellular biology at the Miami Medical School. Okay, again, infectious diseases and cellular biology.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Yep.
Dave. This is the important one. This is the one that is standing out for everybody. Please go ahead.
No, you take this one, Ed. Go on.
Okay, November 16, 2001, Don C. Wiley, 57, right? He's the one that you will find at the start of almost every other list. And he's the one that is the most important, first death in connection with Ebola. So expertise. He was one of the foremost microbiologists in the United States. So he was one of the key guys in microbiology. He worked at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute at Harvard, and was an expert on how the immune system responds to viral attacks such as the classic doomsday plagues of HIV, Ebola, and influenza. Now, the background here is the police found his rental car on a bridge outside Memphis, Tennessee, and his body was found December 20th. Yeah, December 20th, 3 weeks later in the Mississippi River.
Wow, you'll go swimming with the fishes.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what? This kind of thing is it's showing that there is something bigger than we thought.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
in control of this.
I also want you to remember these names because other people that are on this list have worked very closely with other people's on this list. So, sorry, go ahead, babe. It's really crazy shit.
Okay, no, that's fine. But Meki, is that Vlad?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm actually gonna try it.
Beautiful.
Or we don't have enough time before the top of the break, I don't think, to get through this one. We'll have a look at this one on the other side of the break. I just, we've seen this, and there's been, Hollywood's gone down these same paths. I know that all of the different industries, they want you gone, that you just disappear. That's what they'll do.
Yes.
Whoever the people are. I'm just trying to generate a bit more.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the key thing is to remember,
staying
guys.
on after the break.
Yeah. No, the reason we share the list with you is because people will say, well, you can't cover this stuff up. And I would agree with you. But if you take care of people that could figure it out, or people that are involved, so if you kill them or disappear them, then you can keep your secret a lot longer. So some of these people, I'm not saying these were involved in any of these trials or or depopulation. What I'm saying is that these scientists could have worked out what's going on. Just by looking at the DNA of the virus, or maybe looking at the infectious vectors, the spread vectors of the disease, or where it started first, or any of these things, because these were smart guys, especially Don C. Wiley, right? So I'm not saying they're all part of the bigger conspiracy, but they were certainly in a position to, blow the whistle, tell the world about something fishy. And in fact, right, the number one listener-supported talk radio on the net, number one. Since it is listener-funded radio, guys, and if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left in the chat. I'm looking at it right now. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run the station. It actually does. We are donating when we can. I still have to donate mine, but I haven't got a PayPal account, but I will get one. And I'd like to say hello to all of the new listeners we have today, and to everybody in the chat. Awesome to have you guys on board. Great comments. Thank you very much for all the info you're sharing with us, and we are very glad you're on board. Now, we are halfway through show number 129, 920, and 100, and we are talking about Ebola and the mysterious death of microbiologists that had an expertise in the field. So, it's all very strange, Dave. Yes, sir, isn't it?
It sure is. Every time I went on a date and said that I was a marine biologist, I'm sort of glad I never became a microbiologist.
Did you really? That's cool.
Well, whoever went to it's like going to Florida and saying that you work for SeaWorld and you're a marine biologist.
That's
you're a teen, I saw something really funny recently, and it was that, if you're in your 40s, you did most of your crazy stuff before Facebook was invented.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty sorry for the people who are living with it now because, if they're not posting it, they're not popular, and if they're not popular, then, it makes them want to go out and do crazy things, and then they post it. And, it's there forever, guys. Anyway, so we're talking on the other side of the break. If you only just caught up with us, we're talking about the mysterious deaths of microbiologists. Now, this is in relation to, and this is part 3 of our biological weapons series or show cycle. It's an important thing. We did spend most of the first hour talking about Ebola, but it is all tied together. So hang with us.
Yes.
Stay on track. I'm glad you're with us. and you're sharing this ride with us. It's really important that we don't just do it alone. But if you're really interested, we have a big history of YouTube clips of our past shows. So jump in there, and if you like what you hear now, if you're a first-time listener, you can just look up Shiny Side Out, and the rest will become apparent. Mackie, so we were up to November 21st, 2001. Vlad, I'd really love you to take this one.
Okay. So this is Vladimir Pasechnik. He was 64, and his expertise was he was a world-class microbiologist and high-profile Russian defector who defected, in fact, to the United Kingdom in 1989. He played a huge role in Russian biowarfare and helped to figure out how to modify cruise missiles to deliver the agents of mass biological destruction. So this is a heavy hitter, guys. Okay. Now this is the background of his death. He founded. Sorry, this is his background. He founded the Regma, and this is important. This is very important. He founded the Regma Biotechnologies Company in Britain, a laboratory at Porton Down, the country's chem biowarfare defense establishment. Okay, Regma currently has a contract with the U.S. Navy for the diagnostic and therapeutic treatment of anthrax. Okay, heavy hitter. His death, odd. The pathologist who did the autopsy, and who also happened to be associated with Britain's spy agencies, concluded he died of a stroke. The details of the post-mortem were not revealed at an inquest, in which the press was given no prior notice. Colleagues who had worked with Pasechnik said that he was in good health. Can you smell a cover-up? Maybe. Right. Very odd stuff.
Wow. It is. In December 10th, 2001, Robert M. Schwartz, 57. He was an expert in DNA sequencing and pathogenic microorganisms, founding member of the Virginia Biotechnology Association and the executive director of research and development at Virginia's Center for Innovative Technology in Herndon. He was found, stabbed and slashed with what police believe was a sword in his farmhouse at Leesburg. VA, Vancouver, I suspect.
Yep, I think so.
His daughter, who identifies herself as a pagan high priestess, and several of her follower pagans have been charged.
So essentially there was a huge Satanist case at the time, and when they say pagan, they really mean devil worshippers. That's what they're referring to here. But that's of course incorrect. A pagan is not a devil worshipper, guys.
That's true.
So, let's not make that mistake. We've been educated, right? We know the shiny side way. Now, but having said that, though, it's odd. I mean, he was killed by a sword. Now, there are all kinds of associations that the elite has with paganism and devil worship. There are two different things, though, okay? But this is certainly an odd way to go, in my opinion. Right? The next one happened December 14 in 2001. It's Nguyen Van Zet, 44. And his expertise lay in the animal diseases facility of the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, and he had just come out. He had just come to fame for discovering a virulent strain of mousepox, which could be modified to affect smallpox. And the circumstances of his death are just very odd. Now, this is in Australia, guys, right? He died at work in Geelong, which is in Australia, in a laboratory accident. Okay, he entered an airlock storage lab and died from exposure to nitrogen. It's that typical, death in a lab. If you've seen Watchmen or you've seen the Hulk or whatever, you've seen what happens to people that they get actually locked into chambers. Usually they turn into superheroes. not really. No, they die.
But nitrogen.
Yeah.
But you mean only nitrogen?
Only nitrogen. So
yes,
he died of
asphyxiation.
Yeah, that's correct, sir.
Bugger.
He suffocated. Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so. Next one, sir. In fact, these are two Russians, I think.
So Ivan Glebov and Alexei Brushlinsky, two microbiologists, both were well known around the world and members of the Russian Academy of Science. Glebov died, or Ivan died, as a result of a bandit attack, and Brushlinsky was killed in Moscow.
Yep.
Now, the KGB can work in mysterious ways, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, the reason we're mentioning these, and this is important, guys, is because these are suspicious circumstances that surround these deaths of microbiologists. Once again, why do we look at this? Because they are guys that could have put it all together. The next one is David W. Berry in 2002 January. You might be familiar with David Berry. 58. And he was the scientist who co-discovered AZT. And that is the antiviral drug that is considered the first effective treatment for AIDS.
Huh.
Okay? And he died unexpectedly of a heart attack. Again, seemingly in good health.
That's that heart attack thing again.
Correct.
February 9th, 2002, Viktor Kroshonov, 56, expert in intestinal bacteria of children around the world, bashed over the head near his home in Moscow.
Very violent, right? Very strange.
Do you remember, Becky, in Australia we had the heart and brain guy killed in his driveway in front of his family and everything?
Yes, I do actually. I do remember.
Yeah. So this isn't isolated. You know, you step on the wrong toe, find out the wrong information, and whoosh, it's all gone.
Yeah, totally. 100%, sir. Absolutely. Ian Langford, 2002, February 14th. He was, and this is important, he was without doubt, so it was in The Guardian, it was said, without doubt one of Europe's leading experts on environmental risk, specializing in links between human health and environmental risk. And Ebola, in fact, is many believe came only to light because we've encroached on the jungle and hence occasioned the bat to now bite us because the bat might not have come into contact with us before and thus spreading Ebola. Now he was found dead in his home near Norwich, England, naked from the waist down and wedged under a chair. Oddly enough, though, and this is actually not part of the text here, but I remember it from the research and I should have put it in here, but oddly enough, it was ruled accidental. His death was ruled accidental. So he's naked from the waist down and wedged under a chair.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
These accidents happen all the time. I'm sorry.
It happens. Clearly it happens, you know.
This is crazy. Okay?
Wow. But he was leading expert, right? On environmental risk.
Yes, absolutely. Again, he would be the kind of guy that probably could put these things together, looking at it from a risk perspective, right? Because when you analyze risk, you look at all the inputs. So he'd be an excellent analyst, in my opinion.
Wow. February 28th, 2002, Tanya Holzmeier, 46. A Russian who moved to the US in 1989 focused on part of the human molecular structure that could be affected best by medicine. Killed by fellow microbiologist Guang Hung, who shot her several times when she opened the door to a pizza delivery. Then he shot himself.
Yep. In fact, he's next on our list. Right.
Oh no! Death by GSW, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yes. And so what he was a microbiologist as well, working alongside Tanya.
Yeah, and the circumstances here are a little nebulous, right? What I find interesting that she seemed to have defected at the same time as the other Russian, 1989, right? It seems to be an important year there. Again, the wall came down. It makes sense to some extent.
So,
but
he must have pretended to be bringing the pizza, or he knew she was getting pizza, or he was stalking her. Yep. And knocked on the door. Who knows?
Look, who knows? I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is she was structuring. You know, she would probably have been a good bet on coming up with cures for various diseases because that's the field she studied. You know,
that's right.
How can we best cure people? And again, then he shot himself. So it was a murder suicide. This is again a signature for the elite murder suicides.
He could have just saved everyone the trouble and just done it to himself and not left home.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, that wasn't the motive of the people around.
Absolutely. The next one, again in England, this was David Wynne Williams. He was 55, 2000, March 24. He was a respected astrobiologist. Okay, and he's included for a very good reason here, with the British Antarctic Survey, who studied the habits of microbes that might survive in outer space. Okay, and the circumstances of his death, he died in a freak road accident near his home in Cambridge. He was hit by a car while he was jogging. Whenever someone says freak car accident, I'm suspicious. Or freak plane crash, or some kind of freak lightning strike. It's always it's weird, right?
Yeah. It wasn't just a car accident.
Yeah, absolutely. And this reminds.
And remember, we've got panspermia on the list of the population of the planet. And it's also in the Black Death or the plague, there was this fog that they described, and there was meteors in the air described at the same time.
Exactly. That's exactly right, sir.
Mm-hmm. So he might have been right on this as well.
Yep.
Okay, so March 25th, 2002, Stephen Mostow, 63, known as Dr. Flu. That's an interesting title to have.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Flu, I have to repeat it, Dr. Flu. For his expertise in treating influenza and a noted expert in bioterrorism of the Colorado Health Sciences Center.
Yep.
Mackie, do you know how he died?
I do, but I want you to say it.
Yeah, well done. He died when the aeroplane he was piloting crashed near Denver.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Look, see, again, plane, right? Boom. Very odd. Now, we've spoken about Benito K. The next one is April 2003 now, guys. And this is Carlo Urbani. He was 46. And he was a dedicated, internationally respected Italian epidemiologist who did work of enduring value combating infectious illnesses around the world. So he was, with Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders and so forth. And he actually died in Bangkok. So he was in the field, guys. He was a field medical man from SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. That, in fact, a new disease that he had helped to identify. And thanks to his prompt action, the epidemic was contained in Vietnam. However, because of close daily contact with SARS patients, he contracted the infection, right, which is what's happening to the health workers in West Africa. And then in less than 3 weeks after he contracted SARS, he died. Okay, again, this may not be as suspicious as others, but it does raise the specter of, how people could be suicided or killed off by just simply exposing them to the virus. Any virus.
In true spy style.
Yes, sir. Next one is very important. Go
June
ahead.
24th, 2003, Dr. Leland Rickman of UCSD, age 47, a resident of Carmel Valley. Expertise. An expert in infectious disease who helped the country prepare to fight bioterrorism after September 11. He was in the African nation of Lesotho with Dr. Chris Matthews of the UCSD, the director of the university's Owen Clinic for AIDS patients. Dr. Rickman had complained of a headache and had gone to lie down. When he didn't appear for dinner, Matthews checked on him and found him dead. A cause has not yet been determined.
Yep. Now now again, right? What did he know? He was involved in fighting bioterrorism after September 11. It's impossible not to become privy to certain programs if they are in fact in place.
Yes.
It's impossible. So did he know too much? Did he not play ball? Did he play ball too much? Who knows, right? I'm just saying this is very strange.
Did he get a case of the guilt? Was he working on something?
Totally. I mean, all of this can happen, right, guys? I mean, these are human beings. Now, the next one is the single most important entry on the list. And it's pure coincidence that I'm reading it out. So it wasn't by design. But this is, and you will know him all, but it is the connections to the other guys, which I was not aware of, that blew me away. So this is Dr. David Kelly, 59. Dr. David Kelly, remember him? July 19, 2003. He was a British scientist and authority on biological warfare, and he was employed by the British Ministry of Defense and formerly United Nations Weapons Inspector in Iraq. Formerly United Nations Weapons Inspector in Iraq. He came to public attention in July 2003 when an unauthorized discussion he had off record with the BBC journalist Andrew Gilligan about the British government's dossier on weapons of mass destruction in Iraq was cited by Gilligan and led to a major controversy. Okay, Kelly's name became known to the media as Gilligan's source, and he was called to appear on July 15th, before the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Select Committee investigating the issues Gilligan had reported. Kelly was questioned aggressively about his actions, and he was found dead 2 days later. Now, Kelly said that there were no weapons of mass destruction, certainly no biological ones. And he said that the pretense for war was based on lies. I don't know if you remember this.
I remember that.
And it was very clear to anyone that he was suicided. Okay? Very clear. Now, this is the thing, though. Bear with me here. He was a biological warfare weapons specialist. He had a senior post at the Ministry of Defense. He was an expert on DNA sequencing when he was head of the microbiology at Porton Down. Remember that? Where he worked with 2 American scientists, Benito Kay and Don Wiley, who are also on our list.
Yes.
Hello. He helped Vladimir Pasechnik found Regma Biotechnologies, which has a contract with the U.S. Navy for the diagnostic and therapeutic treatment of anthrax. Vladimir is on our list also. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So this Dr. David Kelly was connected to 3 other people who died under mysterious circumstances on our list. Yeah, no, there's no conspiracy here. Yeah, you wearing the tinfoil hat. If you believe that, you are wearing the tinfoil hat, okay? Okay, you are. So again, he was found dead after seemingly slashing his wrists in a wooded area near his home at Southmore, Oxfordshire. He was not suicidal. His family maintained there was no farewell note. Most importantly, right? So, and he allegedly killed himself only 3 days after he had appeared in front of the committee investigating the issues. This, to me, this right there is the smoking gun. The death of these 4 guys that are intimately connected. Okay? These are heavy hitters. Okay? They're connected to the government. They're connected to the United Nations. They're connected to all kinds of shady organizations as well. Okay? These are heavy hitters, guys. Sorry, let's keep going, but that's crazy, man.
No, I completely... are we at October 11th?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Excellent. The fact that someone could themselves have, climbed the corporate ladder in such a way, it isn't past it either. That's not past an excuse. And the other one was that he's the one who kept his head low enough not to be done with the others until it was all too late.
Yep.
Or maybe they forced something onto him and he didn't like it. I think that the note, I think when you said there was no suicide note, because that's something about people who suicide, they've thought about it for so long, they're prepared for it.
Yeah.
They'll fold their clothes neatly. People who jump off bridges jump off naked. And they get undressed, they fold their clothes and place everything neatly. That's the way you know. Mm-hmm. Just let everyone out there know. And that's the more likely way that you'll find the victim's remains, is by where they left their clothes. Mm-hmm. October 11th or 24th in 2003, Michael Perich, age 46, LSU professor who helped fight the spread of the West Nile virus. That's something else we've been on one of our shows. Mm-hmm. Perich worked with the East Baton Rouge Parish.
Nice.
I can do a French accent. Mosquito Control and Rodent Abatement District to determine whether mosquitoes in the area carried West Nile. And of course, as we found, that there's still undetermined ways that West Nile propagates. We don't know. Although Walker Police Chief Elton Burns said Sunday that Perich of, I won't say the address, lived in Baton Rouge, crashed his Ford pickup truck about 4:30 a.m. Saturday while heading west on Interstate 12 in Livingston Parish. Perich's truck veered right off the highway about 3 miles east of Walker, flipped and landed in rainwater. Burns said Perich, who was wearing a seatbelt, drowned. The cause of the crash is under investigation, Burns said. That we have witnesses. There are people who... Mike is one of the few entomologists with the experience to go out and save lives today. Mm-hmm. Robert A. Wirtz, Chief of Entomology at the Federal Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, in the news very recently.
Yeah. Now, the one thing to bear in mind, again, guys, and I know I keep repeating myself here, but it's important to not just make this a list, but put it into context. We're not just giving you guys that died, and they're microbiologists, big mm-hmm. deal. These are important microbiologists. These are heavy hitters. These are top leaders in their fields. These are connected people. These are people potentially in the know. Okay, these are not just. It's not just some dude in some university who studies microbiology. It's not like that.
Or wants to study it, or flunked out of everything else.
Yeah.
No.
It's not like that, right? These are the guys that are at the cutting edge. These are the guys making a difference in everyday life here as well. Right? This is why we are bringing you this list, and this is this is how we want to answer to our, I guess, our critics, saying, well, what's the evidence? What's the smoking gun? Well, right there, boom. Explain to me why you have got so many prominent deaths, so many top people dying. If it was just I guess a spread of mediocrity, who would care? Nobody would care. But these are top guys. Robert Leslie Burkhoff, November 22, 2003. He was studying, and you might remember this, he was studying the virus that was plaguing cruise ships until he was killed by a mysterious white van in November of 2003. Do you remember there were these cruise ships back in the early 2000s where everybody got sick and people died as well? So he was studying that. Yeah, so Burkhoff was walking on a sidewalk along the 1600 block on South Brestwood when a white van jumped the curb and hit him at 1:35 p.m. on Thursday, and that's what the police said. I took this from the report. The van then sped away, and Burkhoff died an hour later at the Memorial Hermann Hospital. So he wasn't in the road. The van got off the road onto the sidewalk to kill him in the afternoon. This is not at night walking drunkenly across the road, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Important.
December 18th, 2003, Robert Arenosia, 61. Oakland County Deputy Medical Examiner. This is interesting. I love this one, Mickey. He was driving south on I-75 when his pickup truck went off the freeway near a bridge over the Quaqualan River. The vehicle rolled over several times before landing in the median. Arenosia was thrown from the vehicle and ended up on the shoulder of the northbound lanes. Once again, a car accident.
Yep. So what they say is, usually when a person is in the car by themselves, so especially a male, and nobody else is involved in the accident, 95% of the time they say it's suicide by car, right? I would say that a significant percentage of those accidents are suicided. Okay?
Yes.
Not suicides, but suicided.
It's assisted.
Yes, sir. Assisted suicide. Thank you. Except the real thing is,
it's actually
let's not joke. Let's not joke. This is horrible stuff.
It is awful. We apologise if we take it too lightly, but it is serious.
I'll be honest with you. If I didn't try to make it a little lighter for you guys, this would be extremely depressing because this is real stuff. These people have died, and whether or not they have died of natural circumstances or otherwise, foul play was involved, right? They have died nonetheless, and these were excellent people. We think or we know from the accounts of all the people that knew them in their fields, and it is if it is true what Dave and I think, if there's any truth to what our theory or hypothesis is, then this is the smoking gun. These are the guys that could have put this together, and this is very serious stuff. Very serious stuff. We don't want to panic anyone. We're not doomsayers, but we have to be realistic. Our eyes have to be wide open. You will not find this in the mainstream media. Nobody will investigate this. And Dave and I don't have the resources to investigate each and every single case here, right? We just bring you the facts as we know them. January 6, 2004, Dr. Richard Stevens, he was 54, and he was a hematologist. Now, essentially, he was a blood specialist, okay? That's what hematologists do. He disappeared after arriving for work on July 21, 2003. Okay? A doctor whose disappearance sparked a national manhunt. And he apparently, and this is what a coroner has ruled, killed himself because he could not cope with the stress of a secret affair. Okay, that was a coroner's ruling. Okay, they didn't find his body until January 6th. He was missing for almost 6 months there. A nationwide manhunt. Wow. Nobody nobody who is no one, sparks a manhunt. Look, you can check out the news for yourself there, right?
Yeah, look, do you know what's really weird about that kind of thing is I remember Mickey doing some research on the way that spies used to work, and they still do for that matter, but spies work by enlisting females into the spy game who are designed to go in and grab info. You're less likely to believe a woman is a spy than a male is a spy.
Yep.
And by espionage, you get what you want. But it's also, you can't exclude assassins from that list
Yeah.
at the same time. Why not? It's all out there. We know
I agree.
the word assassin exists because the job title exists.
Yes. Yes, sir.
It's not been reversed. So, where it's January 23rd, 2004, Dr. Robert E. Schopp, 74, an expert on viruses who is the principal author of a highly publicized 1992 report by the National Academy of Sciences warning of the possible emergence of a new unsettling infectious illness. Mm-hmm. Dr. Schopp had accumulated his own collection of virus samples, actually that's not allowed, gathered from all over the world. Mm-hmm. The cause was complications of a lung transplant he received in December. His daughter, Deborah Schopp of Galveston, Dr. Schopp had pulmonary fibrosis, a disease of unknown origin that scars the lungs.
Mm-hmm. Now, he would be in a perfect position to identify disease vectors, meaning he could probably, because he's got these virus samples, he could pinpoint, okay, that virus would have started there, this one there. He looks at the DNA and can figure out, or not DNA in the virus, but can figure out. Actually, no, the virus does have DNA.
They do have DNA.
That is correct. So yeah, so he could figure out, which virus was where. So again, a top guy in his field, right?
Absolutely. He's the equivalent of an entomologist with a wall full of, yes. No, like a wall full of butterflies, yeah?
No,
all
absolutely.
pinned to the wall. So he's going to know
Absolutely.
every single one, everything about each one of them, and he's another expert.
Absolutely. And just one day later, we have the death of Dr. Michael Patrick Killey, who was 62, and he was a top-of-the-line, world-class expert in mad cow disease and Ebola. Okay, he died of a massive heart attack. Coincidentally, both Dr. Schopp and Dr. Killey were working on the lab upgrade to BSL-4 at the UTMB Galveston Lab for Homeland Security. They both worked in the same place, died one day apart.
They knew something.
The lab would have to be secured to house some of the deadliest pathogens of tropical and emerging infectious diseases, as well as bioweaponized ones.
Huh.
Again, these people are connected, yeah? Now,
Stay apart, Nicky.
right? let me just ask you this: how likely do you think it is that two people that belong to the same secret society, which annually taps, I think, 8 or 10 people, and of which there are always roughly 50 live members in the world, would run for president of the United States? How likely is that? Out of a population of 300 million, two guys, same secret club, and only 50 living members at any given time. Well, it happened. It happened. John Kerry and George Bush. They both were members of Skull and Bone, right?
Wow.
Extreme coincidence? No, not really. And when I see lists like this where people are connected that have died, even died within a day of each other, okay, then my hackles are raised. My radar gets up. Yeah. The next one is Vadaki Srinivasan, Indian fellow, March 13, 2014. He was a microbiologist, and his car crashed into a guardrail, and it was ruled a stroke. Of course it was.
Of course. That stroke gun you can fire at someone. Is Isley Ingram, 84, director of supra-regional hemophilia reference center, and the super-regional center for the diagnosis of bleeding disorders at the St Thomas Hospital in London. His death is unknown.
And I couldn't find anything on him.
He just died.
Yeah, look, yeah, that's right?
I think.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how he has died. It doesn't say. Okay. So, William T. McGuire, May 5th, 2004. He was 39, and he was a senior program analyst. And we've thrown a couple of. And this is I threw this in because it's just odd. He was a senior programmer and adjunct professor at New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark. And the reason I've thrown him in here is because his body was found in 3 suitcases floating in the Chesapeake Bay.
Huh.
Now, I'm not saying he's connected to the microbiologist. I just thought that is really odd. Okay, so
No, that is really odd.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I just want to go back to that Isley Ingram. It's Haemophilia Reference Center. Okay? Bleeding disorders. What is Ebola?
yes, sir.
Bleeding disorder. I'm
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
helping the audience, Mickey. Helping the
yeah.
audience. May 5th, 2004. That was a good day. I like that one. William T. McGuire, 39. Expertise, New Jersey University professor and senior oh, that's the same guy. May 14th. It was. May 14th was a better day. In 2014, Dr. Eugene
That's the
F.
same guy. What?
He died twice. Eugene F. Malove, 56. Malove was well respected for his knowledge of cold fusion. He had been just published, and he published an open letter outlining the results of and reasons for his last 15 years in the field of new energy research. Dr. Malove was convinced it was only a matter of months before the world would actually see free energy device. Circumstance of death? Died after being beaten to death during an alleged robbery.
And you can see why he's on the list here as well. Nothing to do with microbiology, but free energy, hello.
You can't have free energy, Mackie, because you get killed.
Guys, come on.
It's what happened to the last
Obviously.
guy who declared peace in the world. He was killed. So don't do that. Don't declare free energy. Don't declare peace. Bad for you. All right. So May 25th,
No.
2004.
Exactly right. You peacemonger?
No. He wants peace. Let's kill him.
Yeah, that's right.
May 25th, 2004. Antonia, it is. Presnyakov. You say it, Mickey.
Presnyakova.
Ah, yes. Former Soviet biological weapons laboratory in Siberia. Circumstance of death was died after accidentally sticking herself with a needle laced with Ebola. Well, they accidentally died 3 weeks later, unfortunately, of a terrible infection.
That's shocking if you think about it. Now, was it accidental? Who knows? I wasn't there. I mean, who knows? The exact circumstances are not known, but I find it odd that, that she would die of Ebola herself. But having said that, though, the reason that is here, accidents happen. You've got 2 Ebola cases in the United States now. I don't care how well the protocols are followed. I don't know how much negative air, you got the...
accidents happen, they do.
Accidents happen.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like in the movies, when that Outbreak movie where the doctor sticks himself accidentally. That's happened in real life here, guys.
But this was 10 years ago, and in the former Soviet biological weapons laboratory, no less,
lucky it's in Siberia.
They're working with Ebola.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They're working with Ebola in a biological weapons laboratory.
Thank you for the pickup there, Mr. Dunger. That's exactly right. This is the key pickup here, guys. Okay, they were weaponizing Ebola. Hello.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is depressing me. I'll be honest with you. Now, the next one. This is again very odd. July 21, 2004. Dr. John Bedway, he was 54 years old. He was a scientist and accidental politician when he opposed disposal of sewage waste program of exposing humans to sludge. He was a biochemist at Harvard Medical School specializing in infectious diseases. These are smart guys. Suddenly developed pneumonia-like symptoms, and then died in 2 weeks.
And his body turned to mush. No way, I added that.
Yeah, but might have. Who knows?
It's like the first thing. What would nanobots do if you made nanobots? Dismantle us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Make more nanobots.
Yeah, that's right. Then dismantle us. June 22nd, 2004. Thomas Gold, 84. I mean, it sounds like he's of a mature age. 84. He was the founder, and for 20 years, the director of the Cornell Center for Radiophysics and Space Research, where he was a close colleague of Planetary Society co-founder Carl Sagan. He's been mentioned on the show 1,000 million times. Gold was famous for his provocative, controversial, and sometimes outrageous theories. Gold's theory of the deep, hot biosphere holds important ramifications for the possibility of life on other planets, including seemingly inhospitable planets within our own solar system. Gold sparked controversy in 1955 when he suggested that the moon's surface is covered with a fine rock powder. He died of heart failure.
And Dave, you can see why he's on the list. He's not a microbiologist, I get that, guys.
Yeah.
But he was, in fact, he may not be. He was 84, so he might very well have died of heart failure. But it is again important to understand that there are other scientists out there that are on the list here. Okay, not just microbiologists. Other scientists are being suicided as well. It's just the microbiologists in recent times that have taken the center stage in the assassination game. June 24, 2004, Dr. Asefa Tulu, he was 45 years old, and he joined the health department in 1997 and served for 5 years as the county's lone epidemiologist. He was charged with tracking the health of the county, including the spread of diseases such as syphilis, AIDS, and measles. He also designed a system for detecting a bioterrorism attack involving viruses or bacterial agents. Tulu often coordinated efforts to address major health concerns in Dallas County, so he was in Texas, guys, such as the West Nile virus outbreaks of the past few years, and worked with the media to inform the public. Okay, now, he was found at his desk and died of a stroke. At 45? Maybe not.
Wow, 45. You know, we covered West Nile before, and West Nile is it has both the meningitis and the other one that affects the brain. It's a very, very bad virus, but unfortunately, it's not quick enough for those people in the top 9 that we mentioned earlier.
Correct.
June 27th, 2004. A lot of 2004s. Dr. Paul Norman of Salisbury, Wiltshire, 52, and that's in England. He was the chief scientist for chemical and biological defence at the Ministry of Defence, the MOD, laboratory in Portendown, Wiltshire.
Again, Portendown, right?
That's the second time I've heard that today. He travelled the world lecturing on the subject of weapons of mass destruction. Died when the Cessna 206 crashed shortly after takeoff from Dunkswell airfield on a Sunday. Doesn't really matter which day in particular. A father and daughter also died at the scene as well. A 44-year-old parachute instructor and Royal Marine Major Mike Wills later died in hospital. So there's a lot of people in a plane, and it went down. Now, shortly after takeoff is like the equivalent of cutting one's brakes, cutting the brake line. You'll just take off, you'll go somewhere, and when you really need those brakes, they won't work.
Yes, sir.
Classic old tale, that one.
Yeah. So we're running a little out of time, but there's some more important ones here as well. So there was we're still in 2004, July 6th, Stephen Tabbitt, age 42. He was an associate professor and epidemiologist at the University of Washington, a world-renowned HIV doctor and researcher who worked with HIV patients in a vaccine clinical trial for the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. He died of an unknown illness.
Huh. Wow. Okay, August 12th, 2004, Professor John Clark, expertise, head of the science lab which created Dolly the sheep. We all remember that. Professor Clark led the Roslin Institute of Midlothian, one of the world's leading animal biotechnology research centres. He played a crucial role in creating the transgenic sheep that earned the Institute worldwide fame, as we all know. He was found hanging in his holiday home. He sounded successful, Mackie.
Yes. Absolutely.
No, I mean successful before he hung himself, if you know what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. And look, if I were in charge, I would want to recruit someone like this into my team if I wanted. Like, I mean, cloning. That's like the holy grail for the elite. You know, to be honest with you. Again, very important death, Professor John Clark. Right, very very important death. November 2, 2004. John R. Lamontagne. He was the head of U.S. Infectious Diseases Unit under Tommy Thompson and was the NIAID Deputy Director. And he died while he was in Mexico with no cause stated.
Oh.
Again, it's not the single death of each of these guys, right? It is the amalgamation of these deaths,
Yep.
guys. Okay, so but it continues right through 2005. We're gonna go through a few because we're running a little short on time here. But so we'll just quickly mention a few. So there was in 2005 there was Dr. Leonid Strakunsky, right? He died after he was being hit on the head with a champagne bottle. And he specialized in creating microbes that are resistant to biological weapons. Okay, and he was found dead in his hotel room.
That's
so someone had
blunt trauma.
Blunt trauma. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
go on, yep.
2006, Lee Jong-woo, age 61, died May 22nd, 2006, after suffering a blood clot on the brain. Lee was spearheading the organization's fight against global threats from bird flu, AIDS, and other infectious diseases. The WHO Director General since 2003. That's the head of the WHO.
Yep, that's right.
Wow.
Okay, so now we've got more in our list here, which will be part of the show notes.
Yeah.
But we
urge you to look through them.
Absolutely. But I think it's important, just a couple more here for 2010 and 2009, 2008. So there was John Wheeler, and he was found dead in a Delaware landfill. Okay, that's
where I went. That's where I want to go to die. See, Delaware landfill.
Yep, and his military career included serving in the office of the Secretary of Defense and writing a manual on the effectiveness of biological and chemical weapons, which recommended that the United States not use biological weapons. Okay, Citra Chauhan, right, 33, was found dead in an apparent suicide by cyanide, right, in a hotel room. Right, and she was a researcher into molecular biology, right? She studied mosquitoes and disease transmission at the University of Notre Dame. Okay, so again, this is crazy stuff. Who commits suicide using cyanide? I don't know anyone. I mean, if you're a spy, yeah, sure, right?
If you like frothing.
Exactly, right?
You have to like frothing to get that one.
100%. And then Malcolm Castaban, he died of the plague. He was a renowned molecular geneticist with a passion for new research, right? But he died of the plague. And he was working with a strain that was approved by the Centers by the CDC for laboratory studies, right?
There you go. It was approved to be worked on.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's Wallace Pena, 81. He died of respiratory failure and other natural causes, they say, right? He was a germ warfare scientist whose top secret projects included a mock attack on the New York subway with powder bacteria in 1966. He worked at Fort Detrick, okay, and he also worked in the Special Operations Division, a secretive unit operating from 1949 to 1969, and according to family members at least. And the unit developed and tested delivery systems for deadly agents such as anthrax, smallpox, and, dare I say it, Ebola. What's the last one we're going to share with our listeners, sir?
Bruce Edwards, is it Irvines? Ivins. 62, died, you disagreed to all of them, died July 29 of an overdose. He committed suicide prior to formal charges being filed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for an alleged criminal connection to the 2001 anthrax attacks. I don't know how it connects to him. Evans was likely solely responsible for the deaths of 5 persons and the injury of dozens of others, resulting from the mailings of several anonymous letters to members of Congress. We all remember that incident.
Yes, sir.
But once again, the letters which contained the Bacillus anthracis, commonly referred to as anthrax, Evans was a co-inventor of the 2 patents for anthrax vaccine technology.
Again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, so look, we skipped a few names here, and their death is no less important than all the other deaths. You can find them in the show notes. But this is the thing to take away here from the show today. There seems to be a smoking gun. People have always asked, well, what's the evidence? I mean, okay, so people try to depopulate the planet. Well, somebody will blow the whistle, as we said at the beginning of this. Well, these guys were in the perfect position to potentially do this, and maybe some of them, like Dave said, had got a bad case of conscience. You know, maybe they developed one, and they could no longer be part of the bigger program, or maybe their expertise would have led them down the right path to expose the things that are going on. I mean, these are all top people in their field. Once again, in any population, you expect mediocrity or brilliance, but these are all very important and in fact leaders in their field that have died under very odd circumstances. Some of them.
Meki, 2 or 3 people in the same lab,
Yeah.
all going,
Yeah.
would mean that they possibly were colluding to do something, were found out, and one were taken out at a time until, and there was a big length of time between one and another one at the same lab, and maybe that person was the one who held on for so long.
Yeah, totally.
We don't know.
Look, that's exactly right. I mean, some of these guys are connected, right? Like Dave said. I mean, there's a connection here, right? They helped each other. They worked in the same places. They were founders of the same societies or laboratories in certain circumstances. So what do you do? What do? You just ignore it? No, you can't, because something is going on, guys. And most recently, the downing of MH17. We lost, again, another 100 of the world's top microbiologists.
The world's top. This isn't like the people who, the gophers who make coffee at the lab. These are the people who run it, who have got the longevity in this. You're right. That's Meki. It's just pasted it. Good, Meki. There's a Meki in the chat room, by the way, Meki. He's right on the ball. I have to say, one of the things is that I was not aware that we had places with these names. The places where these people worked and the things they were working on, I'd never connected together before we started doing this.
No, absolutely. And looking at the research that we did over the last few weeks, I knew about the microbiology. Yeah, they had died. Who cares, really? But then we thought, maybe there's more to it. Let's make it a show. And then we made it several shows, and then it turned into 4 or 5 shows, right? And all of a sudden now, when you look at the death of these microbiologists, you go, oh, hey, that's really odd. This doesn't make any sense. These are connected guys. We know him, David Kelly. Yeah, he was connected to this guy. Really? Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. He knew him. He set up the same lab with him. Is that right? So this is bigger than just a single investigation.
It is. Center for Biodefense Research. Mm. Remember the story we did at the beginning of all of this, which was the Japanese Center for People's Safety or whatever it was called, and they were manufacturing bioweapons. Mm-hmm. It was named one thing. These ones don't seem to be like that. They, in fact, Center for Biodefense. What were some of the other places, Meki? The one that was working on Ebola in Russia.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. This is the thing. Make no mistake, these diseases, right, as they come to light, they're immediately isolated and put into bioweapons facilities. Now, if you're smart like the Russians, you put them into a place like Siberia, where there's nobody around for thousands of kilometers. Mm-hmm. If you're silly like the Americans, you put them into Georgia, Atlanta.
Yeah, Montauk.
Right?
Yeah, just put them next door,
Yeah.
You think that's meth lab next door. No, that's not a meth lab.
And accidents happen, guys.
That's
even
an Ebola, culture that you can smell.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, Rupert, you're right. And we are death dealers, to some extent tonight. We don't read any more names out because, these guys could be martyrs for our cause. They could have, potentially been just about to blow the whistle. We don't know that, right? But we certainly want to make sure that you guys know about them. And we want you guys to know about the bigger picture, because there's always a bigger picture.
There is a connection between all these people. But yeah. I want to put the question out there. What did they know?
Yeah.
What were they working on? What had they worked on? What had they advised could be worked on? Because these are all the ramifications of their work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I find it personally strange that they're working in departments that are designed to create these bioweapons.
Yeah, well, that too, right?
And these are head people.
Yeah, that's right. Rupert, you're right. Heart attacks and strokes are national incidents, correct? But they can be induced. There are substances and machines that can induce strokes. They can induce heart attacks. There are poisons available that make it look like that, right?
And they're not detectable.
Yeah, and all we're saying here is it is suspicious that so many important heavy hitters, I call them, right, in the industry in the scientific field here,